Jesus lifted up his eyes, and seeing great multitude coming toward him, he said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread that these may eat?" But this is he said to test him, for he himself knew what would do. Philip answered him, 200 denarii worth of bread is not sufficient for them, that every one of them may have a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, "There is a lad here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish, but what are they among so many?" Then Jesus said, "Make the people sit down." Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down, in number about 5,000. And Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to the disciples, and the disciples to those who sitting down, and likewise of the fish, as much as they wanted. So when they were filled, he said to his disciples, "Gather up the fragments that remain, so that nothing is lost." Therefore they gathered them up and filled 12 baskets with the fragments of the 5 barley loaves, which were left over by those who had eaten. Then those men, when they had seen the sign that Jesus did, said, "This is truly the prophet who is come into the world."
Glory be to God forever. أنية
بسم الآب والابن والروح القدس الإله الواحد آمين.
The gospel of this morning is from John chapter 6, from verse 5 up to verse 14. And I believe all of us knew very well this story, which was mentioned in the 4 Gospels. The 4 Gospels insist to mention this miracle of feeding the 5,000 with 5 loaves of bread and 2 small fish. And in number, he said 5,000 men. And if we consider a family led by a man, maybe contain average of 3 people, we speak of feeding almost 15,000 people. This is not the only time Christ feed people. In St. Mark Gospel, he fed also 4,000 another time. Why the church teach us today this story? It lies on the 5th Sunday of the Coptic month. And as if God wants to bless us more with another Sunday in the month. So normally we read this gospel when we have 5 Sundays in the Coptic month. Today is the 30th day of the month of Tut. What is the blessing mean? From the first chapter in the Bible, when God created Adam and Eve, God said, and he blessed them and told them, multiply and have dominion over all creation. So it is God who is the source of all the blessings. And again, after the flood, God said the same word to Noah and his sons, and God blessed them. as the flood was the renewal of the life between God and man. Nevertheless, the blessing is still continue. We face Abraham in Genesis chapter 12, and the blessing here is more expanded. He told him, I will bless you, and all the nations will be blessed from you, and the whole earth will be blessed from you. And here God again is putting in us as human the way of blessings. What was the way of blessings to Adam and to Noah and to Abraham and to me and to you, my brothers and sisters? It is following him truly, obeying him truly. Abraham obeyed and Noah obeyed. Can you imagine someone like Noah in the middle of the desert, and you were asked to build an ark, and God told him the flood is coming? No one have witnessed any flood, maybe heavy rain, but the word flood was not there. But if you read Genesis from chapter 6, one word is always common, and Noah obeyed the Lord. And Noah obeyed the Lord, despite how the others are telling him, and despite even his doubt sometimes, he's still obeying God. And now to Abraham, he told him, go out. And as you know, Abraham was 75 years old, living in Iraq, where, as we know, in the Middle East, land and family relations matters a lot. But yet, at the age of 75, Abraham obeyed. And I always stood before this verse, and he told him, to the land which I will show you. He never showed him a map, but he showed him himself. And many of us still need God to show them something. You're going to see something when you obey and follow. When I stay in my piece of land, in my area, in my conditions, without moving, I will never see anything. Obedience. Obedience. And obedience will never come without seeing God, himself. We do not follow words. We follow the Logos. We follow the wisdom. We follow the lover of mankind. So take heed that obedience is the first pillar of receiving the blessing. And I ask myself, am I obedient to God? We normally pray, God bless me, God bless me, God bless me. God will bless you, but you might not see Him. He will bless many things, but the true blessing is when I meet with Him. When I meet with Him. When I meet with Him, when I trust Him more, I obey, and I go, and I obey. And the more I go, the more the blessings will be dwelling in me in whatever I will do. Later on, after Abraham, God blessed Jacob, and Jacob blessed the 12 tribes. And God said, God bless Joseph in the land of Egypt, even in a foreign land, even in a different culture, even with living with those who are not believing, because Joseph trusted and obeyed God. There is no other way to be blessed except obedience. Nothing but obedience. And I see this as a very important part, because when you read after this, one of the greatest books in the Bible, the book of Deuteronomy, where God put in chapter 28 especially, and in chapter 11, He put the same condition. If you obey my commandments, you will have the late and the early rain. And as you know, the land of Canaan has no rivers. It's mountains and hills. And He told them, you throw the seed, and if you obey me really, the rain will come. The blessings will come. But if you will not obey me, there is no rain. Just a hint to each of us. Do you remember the story of Elijah? When Elijah stood before Ahab the king and he told him this, no rain, as if he's telling him, no blessings. No more blessing. God is not happy of what we are doing. Or at that time to King Ahab. So it's the same. And in chapter 28 Deuteronomy, he said, read this chapter. Half of this chapter, if you obey, I will bless. And tons of blessings at your work, at your land, at your family. But half of the chapter is this. The second half is, if you will not obey, there is some consequence as well. But you may say, Father, all these blessings are earthly blessings. And I agree and disagree with you. I agree because at that time, only extending the life was the blessings. Healthy life only was a blessing. Having a family, especially having kids, was a blessing. But what is the blessing now in the new Christ or in the Bible, the New Testament? There's a great verse in Ephesians chapter 1. Blessed be the Lord our God, who bless us with all spiritual blessings in Christ, who chose us to be adopted to Him before the creation of the whole world. And that's big. That is big. That is magnificent and great. That we who believed in Him, we were early blessed before the creation of the whole world. In one person, in Christ Jesus. And look at this, with all spiritual blessings. Nothing is left. Nothing is left that you may not be getting it from God. Nothing. Not even a single blessing I'm out of, because I am blessed in Christ Jesus Himself. So, as He blessed Abraham, there was a hidden blessing with all the nations, because all the nations were blessed by salvation and the new life in Christ. And as He blessed Noah to be saved, He blessed the church and those who believe in Him. And as He blessed Moses and the people of Israel of obeying Him, He blessed all those who obey Him, not only for earthly kingdom, for a bigger spiritual blessing. What is this blessing? That God in me and I in God. God is with us and in us. God is always eager to have this blessing to me and to you. So obedience is number one. But from the light of this miracle today, we see another pillar of blessings. I am part of this blessing. We all expect miracles. We all, and I know we like to see the saints appear and see angels, which is good. But this is not the only thing I receive. There's something bigger than this. What is this? When I give God what I have willingly to be blessed. 15,000 people were fed today because of one small lad. Imagine. Without the small lad who gave the 5 loaves and 2 fish, do you think this miracle can be done? No. And this is another side of blessings. God is sharing with me to be a witness to His blessing, but give Him what you have, even the very little that I have. Give Him the little faith that I have. Give Him the little prayer, but be honest in this prayer. Give Him the little effort to serve Him. Give Him the little, and He will bless, and others will be witnessed. There's a great story about a village who were scared because of a big rock standing on top of the mountain. And they were afraid that maybe a strong wind will come to push this big rock and destroy the village. So the leader of this village gathered the whole village and said, let us stand together as one line, and we push this rock on top of the mountain to the other side, which was empty. And all of them stood and started to push, and nothing happened. And he asked, is there anyone left in the village? He said, yes, there's a kid, 5 years old kid was left in the village. Told them, bring him. And when they brought him, when he gave this little push from the end, the rock was moved. And that's another expansion. As a church, as one body, all are needed. Who looks big and who looks what? Small. Those who feel that they carry everything, and those who feel wrongly that I am worthless. No, your role is quite important. My role is quite important to witness the blessings of God. My role is quite important to share in the blessings of God. Today, without the small lad, there was no blessing for 15,000. And I'm asking myself and you, are you ready to be part of that witness, to be a blessing in whatever you do, at your school, at your work, at your church? I've been called to be a blessed. The last pillar, first pillar, God at the source and obedience. The second pillar is give God the little that you have. The third pillar, which is quite important, is I am a distributor, not a manufacturer. We are distributors of the blessings. Look at Christ when he took the 5 loaves and blessed. He gave the disciples to give. And we cannot give blessings without the source of blessings. We are distributors. The more I take from God, the more God will use me to the others. The more I stop getting from God, the more my shop will be empty because I'm not a manufacturer. And how great is this? I could imagine the people give thanks to the disciples while the source of all this was whom? God. So we as servants sometimes don't think when someone tells you God bless you and thank you that you are the source of this. No. Take it back to the source. He is the one who did all this and gave. He's the one who did all the blessings and give. Don't despite yourself to be part of this great story of blessings. Go to Him in whatever little that I have. I have 2 verses today to pray with. Do it sincerely. I have small prayer. I have something small to give. I can remember one of the great stories, and this is what I will end up with. We were building a church long time in Congo, and we put everything ready, but we lack water. There was no water because it was an empty field. And I remember we were standing stunned, nothing to be done. We have the cement, we have sand, we have the bricks, but there's no water. And a small kid came and just pulled me from my galabeya and said, come. And I followed him. There was a fountain of water almost 100 meters away from the site. And small kids aged from 5 up to maybe 10 years old, I cannot forget one of them was carrying his brother on his shoulder, wrapping him with a small bed sheet. And they brought small bottles, empty bottles of soda, and they start to have a queue to fill the big drum with water. And for 15 days, the church was built because of the water which those small kids brought to the church. 3 years after this, I went to the same church and I found them deacons and serving in the church. We are part of the blessings. The bigger blessing in Christ Jesus. Don't fold your hand, open your hand. Don't say, I'm not blessed. I am blessed despite anything. I am blessed in Christ, but I'm blessed more and more if I obey His commandments. Let us take this time of lecture today to be, God, give me and open my heart to obey and to give the little that I have to be called blessed in you. Glory be to Him forever and ever. Amen.